biggest lie with real estate ownership is you can't get paid weekly if you own real estate. Well, this is the biggest misconception which we'll be breaking down in today's video. I'll even show you how I spent $100 to make $2,500 a month from a property that I didn't own to really drive home the message that it's the biggest lie I've ever heard to date. Before we jump in, my name is Sanjay Parasha and I've now invested into 50 properties that I own today. The reality is I'm now on the journey from 50 to 100 properties, and that makes up a mix of predominantly ownership of 45 properties and a few subleases as well. Today, the core example I give to you is a sublease, which is a property that I don't even own. I spend $100 on and that I make $2,500 a month with. And ideally, all the assets and strategies which I cover on my channel right here and on my Instagram and social media profiles is how we can actually obtain financial freedom and replace our 9-to-5 job and income from real estate itself, so we can actually start to have geographical freedom, financial freedom, and more importantly, decision freedom, so we can start making more constructive choices for our life and our ability to move forward. Because ideally, I definitely am not here to have a 9-to-5 job and exhaust all my time for money. It just definitely doesn't fit the bill. Now let's take it back a little bit. Before we jump in, please subscribe to this channel. Your support is more than appreciated, and more importantly, you'll start to get the weekly updates which we drop on here, so you can implement one of the many strategies, the good, the bad, the ugly, into your own decision-making process, so you can get started with real estate and start to look for financial freedom through all these processes. Now, with the property that I'm going to speak about is I literally spent $100. Look, I spent a little bit more, but ideally, I only had to spend $100 to be able to start to obtain a $2,500 monthly bill that I start to collect as an invoice from my property company as payment to me after all my expenses. And the reality is, once I implemented these 3 key steps, which I'll take you through today, I can then just do this again and again and again, because I know that the strategy works from start to finish. Now, a lot of the people don't have the ability to be able to execute these is because they simply don't have the knowledge. So hopefully these 3 steps provide a greater insight onto how you can get started and follow these very strategies from start to finish, because it's probably the most simple way to be able to make money from real estate and get that weekly check that you're looking for without even any ownership. Now, before we jump forward, if you're a property owner or you know a property owner, when we look at the $2,500 per month, this can usually double if you own the property, because your repayment amount, even if it's just from an interest perspective, is even far greater than your rental amount. And what this strategy is called is Airbnb, or short-term rental arbitrage. And how it works is it's the difference between the rent you pay or the expenses for that property and what you get on a short-term rental or Airbnb basis. And a lot of the time, in simple numbers, you might spend $500, or if you're looking globally, half the amount in your rental repayment from what you usually achieve on a short-term rental amount. And the beauty about this is the difference between your rental or your expenses and what you get at the short-term rental amount is your difference that you keep. And the reason why you're getting paid this is because of the transformation you're making or the work you're putting in that the owner of that property doesn't simply want to make. Now, as I said, if you are the owner of that property, you can double your revenue easily from what you're currently paying, or even if you're looking at the final profit amount, you can double the net profit from $2,500 to up to $5,000 per month if you're able to convert your current property into a short-term rental. Look, it's what I've done across the majority of my portfolio. I now own 45 properties. From those 45, I've actually converted 22 of them into short-term rentals. I continue to still convert one after another to be able to provide me more financial stability, because if I'm only collecting $400 worth of rent per week and I know I can turn that into $800 or greater, why wouldn't I do it? When I have the strategy, I have the know-how, we have the structure, we have the staff in place, and it's literally just replicating the model again and again to be able to now improve my overall asset class and my overall cash flow. And to really drive this home If you own the property, if your cash flow improves from those properties, not only are you improving the value of that property because you're now improving the internals, the structuring, the actual presentation of that property, which allows your property to be valued at a higher amount compared to surrounding properties, but you're also improving your serviceability, which allows you to go and borrow for more properties because your income is now higher. And that then also provides you more of a down payment, or the equity increases from the valuation allows you to then use that equity and purchase more property. But let's get back to basics and the real reason why we're here. How do we start to get paid from property from these 3 key strategies, which I was able to implement with not even owning the property? Step number 1. Now, this is the most important and it's the hardest step out of them all. The reason is because you need to find the correct landlord that will allow you to rent their property, number 1, because that's even a really struggle and a big hurdle for people, even getting accepted on the property. But number 2, being able for you to then to sublet it or sublease it on a short-term rental market. Now, the reason why this is so hard, these 2 steps, is because for you to become accepted, you need to be a great tenant and you need to display how you're a good tenant. But the second part is for you to be able to sublet it. That could actually help the first part, because you could say to the owner, I'm going to actually improve your property because of this structure. Or you could say to the owner, I'm going to actually get this property cleaned twice per week because of this structure. Or you could actually say to the owner, I'm going to actually pay you more because of this structure, so your returns are better as well. And we're pretty much partnering on this. So the entry point in finding the correct landlord is the step number 1. And I've been able to do this multiple times in multiple countries in different jurisdictions with different compliance laws for me to be able to, number 1, have more financial freedom, but also more flexibility on how I implement these business models. Because let's face it, there is costs as well to doing subleasing or running Airbnbs. And what I found was in different jurisdictions or different areas, your costs also vary. For example, in the UAE, my costs are a lot lower because labor is so much cheaper compared to countries like Australia. So it just made sense not only to focus on the property acquisition, but to also implement the subleasing model so I could understand the costs associated to it, or the running operations. And that way I had a greater framework and a greater strategy to take me long term into all my property ventures. Step number 2, and this is the most critical factor, because a lot of the time people think that they have to spend $20,000 or $30,000 to get their first sublease started. But what if I told you that I actually found a property that was fully furnished? What a property that is fully furnished teaches me is the actual landlord wants to command a higher price or wants greater flexibility on their asset because they might want to come and stay there very soon. So sometimes presenting the short-term rental offer is actually very attractive to them because they're probably commanding that higher price. You need to read in between the lines, because if you offer them even $30 more or $50 more from what they're asking, that's usually a big increase in the long-term rental gain. So the second thing is, if you then have a property that's fully furnished, your startup costs are reduced to almost nothing and your risk profile is almost reduced to nothing, which allowed me then to only keep a couple of $100 aside to be able to fully get listed and get this property on the market. Now, the beauty about this is if you find this perfect combination, it's just your ability to negotiate with the agent or landlord at the time and finding out exactly what they want. Because if you're actually looking for step number 2 and you find out that there is properties fully furnished, you can go back to step number 1 and be more aggressive, because you know your startup costs are almost nothing. The rental that you can pay is so much higher, because once you then understand how to calculate the short-term rental amount through great platforms which we share in our free school community, we show you on different platforms that you can utilize. You simply type in the address, you can see surrounding listings, and it can calculate the short-term rental amount you'll receive from that very property on a weekly, yearly, or monthly basis as well. Once you understand how to secure the furnished property, you are well on your way to be able to then use almost no capital to be able to list the property. It's just on how you approach the agent or the landlord. And step number 3, well, what do we spend the $100 on? It might be the question. You need to spend the $100 on the most simplistic items. like just dressing up the property to ensure it's a vibe or it's an experience. And that's what I simply did. I literally dressed the property up with better decor, with better plants and lighting, or even better art pieces inside the property. So when we take the photos, it looks like an actual experience when they walk in. Even putting like diffusers in there to improve the smell and also the overall luxurious feel of the property, you only need $100 for these minor touches. The areas where you're going to save money, and this is the most important factor, this point right here that I'm going to put, actually negotiating with your cleaning team to provide all the additional supplies, because there's cleaning teams out there that provide the linen, the towels, and also all the amenities that come with the actual property, so they continue to replace them. Even things like coffee pods and milks that they can put in the fridge, you can negotiate that into the clean. That way you can pay them a little bit more, but your startup costs are almost nothing. And the guests end up paying for the cleaning amount from their reservation, so you can just then factor that into the actual cleaning amount. So in theory, you start up with absolutely nothing, you just improve the overall experience. So you must be thinking, how is this so easy and what is actually the catch here? Well, the true catch is the actual ability to put the effort in. A lot of people just don't want to put the effort in and they don't understand the strategy fully. You need to just understand, if you can find the actual real estate listing that has the furniture, all you need to do is learn how to talk and approach the agent. And I get it. A lot of the time we don't even know how to talk, communicate, or be able to communicate it effectively, and it takes repetition and time. Or you could also reach out to a mentor to take you through this process, because you could even spend $2,000 on a mentor, for example, and that could save you so much time and give you all the shortcuts based on your own individual circumstances. Or you could even spend $4,000 on a mentor. They could teach you how to look for the deal, how to also calculate the numbers and use these platforms, and also how to communicate with the agent. And that will then allow you even less time, and in 1 week you can start to call and find the deal and actually secure these properties as well. But the game is very simple. Once you have the strategy in place, you can repeat it easily. And the question I want to ask you is, why would I continuously do it if it wasn't profitable? The reality is you see all these people online also subleasing because there is no risk. You can walk away from that straight away. There's just a minimum rental amount that you'd probably need to pay out, like a month, and you can literally just walk straight away if it's not working out for you. You don't have to commit to anything long term. You just need to learn how to run the operations, and you just need to learn how to use the platform. You could be cash flowing from week number 1. You could even list the property before you even start renting it if you're able to get in there and design it. So the game is very simple. It's just the ability to implement is the key. And if you want to shortcut yourself, then actually paying for the knowledge so you don't even waste time doing so. Look, I started a free community for everyone to see exactly what we do step by step. There's not only me as an expert in the free community, we've got other people and even people that have 150 beds on short-term rentals inside this community where you can learn from, and they just drop free content and value day in, day out. You can ask us questions, engage in the community, or also join our inner circle. And it's just an option for you to explore, or you can do some research online. You can watch more YouTube videos. You can come and sit here and watch my next YouTube video, which I'll provide even more content and value for, and execute it yourself. The ideal is I would love to continue to share to you, so please just subscribe so we can build this channel. And more importantly, if you have any questions, I'm more than happy to answer them so we can exchange, we can learn from one another and continue to grow. I'll see you in the next one.